So today we're fixing a door latch. Check it out. So let's talk about what's going on here. Basically, the strike plate
is too high and not allowing the door latch to set.
The only way to really fix this is to pull the door up, but that's not really feasible because nobody's gonna do that. So one of the reasons, notice this gap right here. Notice how smaller it is over there. The door is sagging a little bit. So some people may suggest taking a big screw or a few of them, pulling one of these out, and then trying to take this whole door jamb and pull it towards, the wall. I haven't had much luck with that, ever, in fact. And it's really because of the trim. Everything is nailed and caulked.
Most doors aren't like this. This one is way too close to the wall. In fact, they had to cut the trim long ways just for it to fit.
So what's gonna have to happen is this striker plate's gonna have to come down a little bit. Just by looking at it and doing this, I'm thinking maybe 3/16. We're gonna have to take a chisel and bring this on down because the plate itself is sunken in or embedded inside of the door jamb, which is like it's supposed to be. Of course, don't look at this. This one works, even though it's kind of screwed up looking. All right, let's get this off. So another thing that's gonna have to happen, and I'm gonna probably use a chisel on this, is you gotta take a little meat out of it. Or that latch is not gonna go in. See that? Okay, safety first. So I have this on here and I want to shut the door and test it to see if it's where it needs to be. If the door doesn't shut all the way, as in like it doesn't touch this weather sealing, which it will because this stuff is so, looks like an extra layer was put on here, then that means it would have to go in further. And if it's way too tight and you have to push the door to do some serious compression on this weather seal, then that means that this striker plate needs to come up forward. So I'm gonna put a screw, just one in here, to keep this strike plate from moving when I shut the door, because I need to test to see, where it's sitting at on here. It's kind of a guessing game, to be honest. But how I size my drill bit is basically, you see this screw right here.
You want the drill bit to cover the shaft of the screw, so you can only see the threads.
Basically, I don't want it too tight because I may have to adjust this. So this is about right for me. You can see that something is pulling the top back. Okay, see what it does. So the bolt is in the middle where it's supposed to be, which is good. However, there's a problem. So something you should know if you already don't. This right here is what keeps people from breaking into your house. So what happens is you see how I can easily just push this in All somebody has to do is take a credit card and come in this way, and because this is tapered, it would just push it right on down. But what stops that from happening is that striker plate needs to be set to where this is pushed in, because now it doesn't. Now you're safe. So at least from what I can tell, it looks like that's shut and it is pushing this thing where it needs to be. It's not fully extended. But if you was to push harder, you can see that the whole latch and everything just goes right on in there. We're gonna push that striker plate back the width of this. I don't know what this is offhand. It looks like about 3/16. It's about 1/8. That's fine. All right, well, you could pretty much just guess 1/8 of an inch. It's not rocket science. We don't have to be perfect with this. Looks good from my house anyway. When I do this, I take the tapered end and I will generally bring it this way. As you may or may not be able to tell, but it's basically just crushing this side, and since we're taking that off, it doesn't matter, but it gives me a nice smooth edge here. Push in a little bit. You want to make sure that you're definitely at a 90 with this. You don't want to be doing this craziness, by the way, because when you go to tighten up the screw, it'll pull that plate back and forth. Okay, that's good enough. Let's test it. Yep. The door latch is in, but the dead latch, at least that's what the internet calls it, is where it needs to be. It needs to be just about right there, and that would cause this nut to go in. So everything is good here. The next thing we need to do is put some screws in there and get this thing buttoned up. Let me tell you something. So you can put these little bitty screws in here if you want. They're not very big, and all they do is just go into this door jamb. But behind the door jamb is a stud. So what would be even better is if you took a longer screw, maybe something like this, to where it would actually screw into the stud. So if somebody tried to kick it, it wouldn't just rip out of the door jamb here, because it doesn't have much to grab onto, but it would have more, it would be hitting more meat with the stud in the back. This may actually be a little too short, but we're gonna see. One thing I would suggest is you always pre-drill this, because if you go to take a screw and just ram it up in there, there's a good chance that you are going to be cockeyed like this. Secondly, if you do go in from like an angle like that, you're just like, oh, forget it, I don't have time for this. It's gonna move this striker plate all around, especially if you do this, it's gonna bring it that way. If you do that, it's gonna go back. So just make sure you get it good, put a little pressure right in the center of that hole. So you're gonna need a little more tension on here. So let's give this a try, see what happens. Okay. I can tell I hit something in the back. So another thing, sometimes, like I've worked on houses where the stud for the door is pushed further back, as in maybe they bought a door that was either too small or the installers just set everything back a little bit. In that case, you would want to use a longer screw. you know, maybe something like that. Or possibly, in fact, I use these for the deadbolt plate here. It's a good idea. Like you really do not want to use this little screw for this deadbolt. Before I pull this screw out, this small one, I'm going to check to make sure that everything is still working right. By shutting the door, I'd rather not commit to it just yet. Everything is good. And we're ready to go home. So one more test. Perfect.